Is the bill be read a second time? Member for North West Central.
Look, as the Leader of the National Party stated, the National Party's position is that we will not be supporting this bill for reasons that we've outlined now consistently for a number of years, as we see that legislation being brought into the House is the next step of legislation being brought into the House to change the boundaries or reduce the amount of councils in regional Western Australia. As we have repeatedly said, that we are happy to support metropolitan reform if the regions aren't touched. And unfortunately, commentary by our partners in government, the Liberal Party, have always said that, that the regions are next. As a National Party member, we can't accept that. We have a policy in place as a party that now prevents us from making sure or supporting any legislation brought before Parliament to change any boundaries without a decision by the people. Interesting that the Leader of the Opposition, when he's talking about this bill, that he's prepared, the Labor Party prepared to support Liberal Party in the City of Perth Act to force basically amalgamations. It's quite interesting to see that when you have a look at what he just spoke about, I don't know if anyone made any sense of what he spoke about, other than really the Labor Party don't have a policy other than supporting the Liberal Party and what they want to do in terms of local government reform, or so-called local government reform. So it's quite clear that when it comes to councils in regional Western Australia, that the only way that they can be protected is by the National Party ensuring that we keep our position, which reflects their position, and that is ensuring that regional councils have the choice, if they want to embark on reform, have a choice to have those discussions with their neighbours rather than it being forced. So in Parliament, the National Party, obviously the only party that has been consistent with their policy right from day one, and in actual fact, in February 2009, the then Minister for Local Government made the announcement about council reform in my electorate in Exmouth. So being there at that point in time, following it right through to where we are today, it's unfortunately been questionable how this process has been run. Understand the intent, but out of the three political parties in this House, the National Party have been consistent with their approach to our policy, which is no forced amalgamations and making sure that regional West Australia is looked after. So consistent policy is what we've been able to achieve, but more importantly, that policy has been reflective of what the community's views and aspirations are that we represent in regional Western Australia. If you go back to the record of the opposition when it comes to local government, I think there was 5 ministers, local government ministers, back in Labor's time in government. So that shows that poor old local government over a period of time has had a number of ministers, like I said, 5 from the Labor Party who have held a portfolio. Really doesn't show the importance of local government is to the state. Oh, actually, I think the first one was Michelle Roberts back in 2001, Liliana Ravlich, John Ford, Alana McTurner, Ebola. Yep, so there's been quite a few. Yeah, she was at the first to start off with, yep. So, like I said, 5 ministers really doesn't show how important local government is to that time in government by the Labor Party. The wannabe Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, stands up, like I said, no real policy. No real, other than, it was a botched process. Well, that doesn't show any leadership. That doesn't show that you have the ability to become Premier. I asked the question of the Opposition Leader, what are you going to do after 2017? because we all know that he's not going to become Premier, and by then he'll probably be looking for another job, like many former leaders of opposition. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after March 2017. But one thing can be assured, that the National Party, between now and March 2017 and onwards, will not change their position. We are consistent, have a consistent policy when it comes to local government. We're trying to make sure that local governments have the ability to better represent their constituency by efficiencies, and that's why the member for Moore has done a huge amount of work in putting forward subsidiary legislation, which will have a good effect on achieving reform in a positive way towards for local governments. And hopefully the Minister for Local Government, after this legislation, brings in the subsidiary bills that the regional councils and councils general have been wanting to come in for a long time, even in the previous government when it was on the newspaper, waiting for that to be passed. So I hope that both sides of the House support the subsidiary legislation which the Minister for Local Government has committed to bringing into Parliament, or bringing on for debate after this bill. Will be an important step forward for local government. So all in all, the National Party has not changed their position. It's disappointed that we've gone down this path of what we believe to be forced changing of boundaries by this bill. It's disappointed the Labor Party will fall into line with the other major player in Parliament, being the Liberal Party. It's something that we've been saying for a long time, that when the two major parties get together, well, they can pass all the legislation and laws. That's why we're going to vote against this legislation, as we've said, Premier, and being consistent. But you've got the support by the Labor Party, obviously, to pass the bill. So you've got what you wanted. Unfortunately, this, I think, signals to a lot of our constituents in regional WA that be careful what happens after 2017, because without the Nationals holding balance of power, I think you'll see forced amalgamation occur right through regional Western Australia, and that'll be a great shame. So I hope that our constituents read this Hansard, and I'll make sure that they get a copy of how the voting patterns have occurred when it comes to this legislation, and show them that we're flagging what's going to happen after the 2017 election on whoever gets into government. But it's very important that the National Party holds a balance of power to look after our regional voters, look after our regional councils, because we're the only ones who've been consistent with our policy in this area.
Thank you. The question is the bill be read a second time.
Mr Acting Speaker.
Member for West Swan.